This is Vinny Eastwood outside the CYFS Child, Youth and Family Office in Alexandra, and I'm here with a man named Chris Wardell. Chris, can you tell us what happened with you and your child in relation to CYFS? I do realise that we're here in front of the CYFS office right now, so I want to keep it specifically related to what's happened here. And just further down the road we have the courts and the police station to have a look at next. So a little bit of a background for the listeners.
Well, CYFS got involved when they were told by the people who were dragging me through court that my daughter was being abused. So CYFS came out to our house and they had a look around, they checked everything out, found she wasn't abused, so they left. And then the bailiff turns up with family court papers, and that's when all the family court stuff started, and CYFS got involved again, trying to they were trying to make out like they were trying to resolve things, but when we had a family group conference, I was allowed like 20 seconds to have to say everything that I wanted to say. And it wasn't enough time, and so they basically cut me short, shafted me, and went along with everybody else up until court, and then they.
I can appreciate this can be very difficult, and you don't need to really keep it restricted. Do you want to move down to the court now and we'll get some shots in front of there? Or do you still want to go?
I'll still talk about CYFS here. Yeah. Well, after the bailiff was called, I went through family courts, and CYFS were still involved. Because I jumped back in, and Tim Cadogan was my lawyer. Before they made him a disputes judge, and he quit in front of Nicky Boreham. Plus he stole my daughter's 2 weeks nappy and grocery food. You know, so I didn't have anything to put on my daughter's bum or feed her for 2 weeks, and I needed help, so I got some help from family down here for that. And Nicky Boreham, and the last I heard from Nicky Boreham was when she called our house, and I picked up the phone at the same time. Somebody upstairs picked the phone up, and she says, "Hi, it's Nicky Boreham here," and I said, "What do you want?" And there was like silence for about 30 seconds, and she hung up. So I called the office, and I says to, and I talked to her boss, and I passed the message on for them never to darken our doorstep ever again. And that's basically where CYFS sort of left the scene.
Well, thank God for that. I've heard much worse stories. But that's not to say that yours isn't painful. And the thing about Child, Youth and Family Services is with all government department agencies is whatever their stated intention is, their active role is basically directly the opposite. So if their role is to protect children from abusive parents, it's basically in effect what they do is take children from good parents so that they can abuse them. And the same thing that happens in a lot of other areas of the country. I've spoken to many CYFS activists, and it's the same story over and over again. If you want the truth about CYFS, ladies and gentlemen, the basic definition for it is it's a child trafficking ring shell company. They've got quotas for children, they pay certain amounts to people to take care of the children, and a lot of pedophiles actually do work for them. We have recordings from Daniel Ryder in Auckland, who indeed had a CYFS manager confirm that about 10% of the people that were working for his office were convicted pedophiles. This is Vinny Eastwood, Mr. News.
Alexandra police and courts are corrupt,
It's lawful for them to abduct and beat people on hospital grounds. Alexandra disputes judge is a thief who lies under oath with CYFS. Only in Central Otago can the courts target a new widower's child for sex offenders who steal the dead. Yes, the body snatchers of James Takamore were in Alexandra the day it was stolen. It was done so the public wouldn't discover it. And here we are now in front of the Alexandra District Courthouse, again with Christopher Wardell. So Chris, can you tell us a little bit about the courthouse, how they operate down here in Alexandra?
Well, they've got no problems about giving people who have just buried their spouse, like family court papers. They got no qualms about punishing people who ask for help. Every time I asked for help, I had the police on my doorstep. I had armed offenders there. I had them break into my home after my mate committed suicide, so they broke into my home and dragged me off to a nut house. I've had them arrive on my doorstep and serve me court papers for threatening to kill when I asked the Otago Daily Times for help. The Otago Daily Times said something like I threatened to kill them and that. So there was the Otago Daily Times on the charge sheet threatening to kill them. There was Ruth Dyson. Ruth Dyson actually called me up when this whole court thing started, when all this family court thing started, and says to me that she had just changed the law to make it easy for anybody in New Zealand to go for anybody's child for legal guardianship, and these people have pretty much done nothing but interfere in our lives, make things difficult over all the times. Like even when there's even on the very last family court thing, I wasn't even involved.
So is this the family court and district court building as well?
Yeah, they do family court in here as well.
Because I found the interesting difference in the New Zealand courts is that you can film inside the New Zealand courts, but you need 10 days prior permission, but you cannot ever film inside the family courts. And I think this is one of the reasons why they've been capable of covering up the pedophile ring for so long.
Well, it's supposed to be about family, they talk about doing all this, in the best interest of children, and they drive parents to the brink, when they've done nothing wrong, and they just bypass the children, and they bypass a lot of information which they should actually sit down and pass on to police so they can investigate. But instead it's, oh no, we're the courts, we can basically do as we want.
And I've had a lot of reports of scores of fathers committing suicide in New Zealand, specifically because they cannot get access to their children, the family courts won't listen to evidence, and things of this nature. It's very, very hard, particularly for fathers, because men don't have any parental rights whatsoever. If you get a woman pregnant and you want to keep the child, she can decide to terminate the child. If you get a woman pregnant and you don't want the child, she can decide to keep the child. And more or less we are glorified sperm donors and wallets in the eyes of the law. And when you treat somebody like that and you separate them from their children, it's too much for a lot of guys, and they literally can't survive it.
Well, the courts are. The family court isn't actually anything to do with family. It's all about the judges,
money,
the lawyers, the child psychologist. There's Michael Davison. Was in court, he was more interested in talking about catching his flight. There's Barbara Collis from Kotariri, who was the family court applicant's lawyer, who denied in family court that her clients had stolen James Tackmore when they were down here with Michael Davison doing an S33 report, and there's Judge Emma Smith who just sits back on her ass, like she's got some real mental problems when it comes to leaving fathers alone,
Can you talk about that exactly? I mean, how is it? Because if you're talking about a corrupt system, more or less, let's just call a spade, what's their objective in here? I mean, do you think there might be psychopaths who actually enjoy ruining and destroying without fear or favour?
Oh, I think psychopath is a mild word of putting it. I think they just enjoy the thrill of power and control. When you get sort of drunk or whatever and you end up accidentally punching somebody from being drunk, either on accident or purpose, you end up going to anger management. And one of the things they teach you in anger management is about power and control. And then when you bury your wife, you got numbskulls who run the courts who are all about power and control. And they say to you, there's nothing you can do. You got to let the wheels of justice do their cycle, but there is no justice. It's just a fraud. It's a scam.
In other words, the justice system is not for them; it's just for us. And I think the law is supposed to be equally applied across things, but I fail to see how the law can be applied equally when, if you're much, much wealthier, you can afford a better lawyer. How exactly do you apply justice equally when basically it's rich man's justice in this country?
Well, I had to get legal aid, which was Tim Cadogan, and we travelled to Dunedin like twice to the court there to see Judge Emma Smith, and we've just been left out of pocket, very hurt from it all, and the most important years of my daughter's life, were pretty much hijacked from scumbags, who couldn't accept the fact that, hey, here's a widowed father, a newly widowed father. They can't just say, well, let's just let him live. It's like, oh, let's bury him. Let's even use the family court applicants as a proxy way of tracking them through Facebook, and and teaming up with people who are who have it in for me, and I've got it screen saved too, but none of them will investigate because it's all just blind justice, mate.
It seems to me kind of like how predators act. They see an injured animal and then they attack with the whole pack.
Oh, I think even predators is a mild way of putting it. I think predators at least have the decency to actually get caught. These scumbags, mate, it's like on top of that,
Yeah.
Lies upon lies upon lies, and everything gets buried at the bottom, and they don't look at the truth at the bottom of the pile. They only look at the lies and go, oh, Mr. Waddell, your wife died. Now we're going to try and kill you through the courts by forcing you to kill yourself. And even that gets you nowhere but abuse, and that's where the police part comes in.
Mm-hmm. And coming up next, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be heading to the Alexandra Police Station, which is just next door. This is Vinnie Eastwood, Mr. News.
Under New Zealand cultural law, the Otago Daily Times protects child sex offenders who target vulnerable children in the family court. Even the New Zealand Law Society protects them, almost 10 years on, and they still protect their unlawful acts of dual family court, Supreme Court cases, which they claim immunity and suppression.
And now we're in front of the Alexandra Police Station, and Chris, can you tell us a little bit about what they've done to you?
Basically they've abducted me. They've broken into my house. Like the abduction thing was, I was going through the family court stuff, and the body snatchers of James Takamore, which is the manuals, Ramari manual of Kuturiri into maggot lawyer Barbara Collis. They got awarded my daughter every Christmas and holidays at our expense. So I went home. I took an overdose. I was dropped at the hospital by my mother.
What were you overdosing on?
I'm not really too sure what they were.
Just kind of grabbed some pills out of the... I mean, just think about this, okay? Your life's falling apart, you've lost your wife, and now you've lost your child, and everything's going to die. Doesn't matter. That's kind of how it was it?
I still had my daughter, but just all the strain and stress of everything, you know, sort of knowing that, you know, like we can't have a normal Christmas and that because it's been hijacked, and we were at, and so I was dropped off at the hospital while my mum went home to grab something, and Dave Greaves and his monkey boy, I still don't know his name.
Monkey boy's fine for now.
They says to me, "Get in the car, cunt," and they forced me in the car. They smacked my head in all the way into town. We were driving past Pioneer Park, and I was yelling out for help. And Dave Greaves turned the siren on, and the guy in the back that was punching my head in was pushing my head below the window line. And then when we got back to the police station, I was thrown onto the floor on my stomach. I was stomped on my back.
Your back's still not feeling too good. How long ago was this?
This would have been probably a couple of years ago, and I'm still having wicked back problems.
And you haven't been given ACC cover or anything for that?
No, not ACC, not even an apology or nothing. Just resistance.
Yeah.
And after they stomped on me, they dragged me into a room, which has no video
security cameras. Yeah.
Cameras. And I noticed that there was, I counted about 30 legs all around me, and they pulled my pants down and started laughing at me, and they left me like that for about an hour, it seemed, and then I was...
So they beat you, dragged you into a cell by yourself, crowded you, pulled your pants down, laughed at you and belittled you, and then just left you there.
Yeah.
That sounds like the New Zealand police.
And then they locked me up and in the mental hospital.
How long?
I was in there for about a week, and I've been there now thanks to them. I've been there now about 5 times.
Mm-hmm. Now, the another element about New Zealand mental hospitals is that they don't just send people who have mental problems there, they send people who are causing problems for the establishment there, because they load you up with drugs, they corral you with a whole bunch of other mentally unstable people, whether or not they were unstable before going there or not, and that actually starts to make you go a little loopy just at being in that environment. And as a result, they can then, whenever you become a problem for them again, they can just say, "Oh, this guy's been in a mental hospital, he must be a bit loopy," and it becomes sort of like a cyclical, plausible deniability scheme. Have you experienced anything like that?
Oh, I've experienced being treated like dirt, basically, like, you know, like there's only once where they've actually sort of treated me with any dignity, and that was like last time I was protesting out here, this cop came out and says to me, "Good on ya, you're doing the right thing," and that sort of drove me on to do this.
Do you have anything you'd actually like to say to the police themselves and the courts and CYFS and what have you? I've interviewed 15-year prosecuting Sergeant Grace Hayden, and she said that the New Zealand police are so corrupt that you will either become corrupted or you will leave. And it occurs to me that there are very good police within the New Zealand police establishment. However, it's very rare to find somebody who has climbed the ladder and reached those upper echelons of power and prevented themselves from becoming corrupt. And it's a very sad state of affairs. And also there's a big fear culture. So if you are one of the good cops, I can guarantee you, if you start speaking out, if you start trying to make a difference from the inside, your life will be made very difficult too.
All I have to say is I can't go out anymore without the fear of being abducted and beaten. And something else I want to say is shame on you. Shame on you, New Zealand police. Shame on you, courts. Shame on you, CYFS. You disgusting filth. I spit on you.
Seems about right, and the public agree. Thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. This is Vinny Eastwood, Mr. News. Until next time.
Being in hell, you government arseholes. I spent the wasted 8 years of my life, and another 2 years trying to do something about it. I hope you end up in a place like that one day. Hell, all the lives you fucked over. So when you're all standing at the gates of hell, waiting for some person like me to save your ass, forget it, mate. I'll do exactly what you did. And that'll be you.